Have you ever truly stopped and asked yourself this? What does a man really give when he lies with a woman? It's easy to answer quickly. People might say he gives his body, his strength, his effort, or his desire. But if you peel back the surface, if you look beyond what appears obvious, you'll find something far more fragile, far more sacred. A man doesn't only give flesh, he gives fragments of his soul, often unknowingly, often without realizing that in those moments of intimacy, he is offering not just what he can do, but who he is at his most unguarded. Because let's be honest, when a man seeks intimacy, he's rarely just seeking pleasure. It's not simply about arousal or the mechanics of sex. Underneath the touch, beneath the performance, behind the act, there is something deeper. There is hunger, and though the world labels that hunger as lust, at its root it is something else entirely. It is the soul crying out. It is the heart begging to be validated, to be accepted, to be chosen. Chosen not as a performer of desire, but as a human being who longs to be seen. What men crave is not just to be taken as lovers, but to be recognized as beings, to be acknowledged not for what they produce or provide, but for who they are, even in their brokenness. Yet society rarely teaches men how to express that longing. Instead, they are told to cloak themselves in strength, dominance, achievement, and skill. The world whispers that only by embodying these things will they deserve love. But behind the facade, behind the confident eyes and the steady hands, there is often a quiet desperation. And what is that desperation for? It is the desire to be accepted without condition, to rest in the presence of someone who does not demand he earn love, who does not ask him to wear the mask, who does not flinch when she sees the parts of him that even he doesn't understand. When a man bows his head before a woman's body, he is not only chasing passion, he is tracing the outline of the affection he has long been deprived of. He is reaching for the tenderness he was once denied. The truth is, he longs for the sacred feeling of being enough. Enough without performing, enough without impressing, enough without having to protect everyone else just to be worthy. From the outside, it may appear purely physical. From the ear, it may sound like passion. But beneath it all, what is moving is something spiritual, something emotional, something ancestral. Men carry emptiness not because they are broken by nature, but because they were taught, generation after generation, to forget who they are. Think about it. Boys are taught to armor themselves before they ever learn how to hold themselves. They are told to pursue sex not as connection, but as conquest. And so men grow up offering their bodies, secretly hoping someone will reach into the depths of their soul and touch what has long been buried. But when intimacy is real, when it is truly real, it is not conquest. It is not performance. It dismantles illusions of control. It reveals how fragile strength really is. And I don't mean the strength that lifts weights or wins fights. I mean the strength that hides grief behind silence, shame behind charm, pain behind a smile in the spotlight. That kind of strength is brittle. And it is only in moments of surrender, moments when the body stops performing and begins yielding, that the unconscious finally stirs awake. Carl Jung once said, "Every act of intimacy reveals more than it appears." He didn't see desire as some shallow animal instinct. He saw it as a doorway, a channel between what is seen and what is hidden. And he was right, because desire does not begin in the skin, or in the eyes, or in the touch. It begins in the psyche. It begins in wounds that never closed. It begins in memories too painful or too shameful to revisit. Every longing has roots, and those roots are tangled deep in the soil of the unconscious. This is why sex is never just a union of two bodies. It is an exchange, an energetic transaction, a merging of shadows and intentions. And if the woman a man lies with is not aligned, if she carries wounds of her own, disconnection of her own, the transaction becomes dangerous. What should have been pleasure turns to depletion. What should have been connection collapses into confusion. The fatigue that follows isn't just physical, it is spiritual. Have you ever felt that hollow emptiness after an encounter? That unsettling quiet that lingers long after the body has rested? That doesn't come from the act itself. It comes from what was lost in the process. Every time a man enters intimacy without presence, without awareness, without sacred connection, he leaves behind a piece of himself, pieces he may never reclaim. We are told the female body is sacred, a temple, and it is. but so is the male body. And when two temples meet without reverence, without intention, chaos is born, confusion is inevitable, because intimacy is never just skin on skin. It is energy colliding, it is spirit merging, and not every doorway you open leads to light. Some lead to wounds, some lead to fragmentation, some awaken ancestral pain still echoing through bloodlines. When you open yourself unconsciously, you inherit more than you see. You inherit unresolved trauma, energetic clutter, grief that is not yours. And then you wonder, why does my clarity feel dimmed? Why does my purpose feel unsteady? Why does peace slip further from my grasp? No one teaches men this. No one tells them that sex awakens memory, that it stirs shadows. When a man surrenders fully, he reveals not only his body but his soul. He reveals the silent boy within, the boy who only ever wanted to be loved without having to earn it. That boy still lives inside every man. And when intimacy strips away the mask, when closeness becomes too real, that boy rises. That is the real nakedness. Not the body, but the spirit exposed. And here lies the paradox. Many men retreat when it gets too close. Not because they are incapable of love, but because love means facing the emotional mirror. And not every man is ready to look into that reflection. The modern world has trained men to believe intimacy is a performance. Impress her, prove yourself, make her feel like no one else can. But underneath this lies a dangerous illusion, that love must be earned. That intimacy is about skill. The truth is different. Real intimacy is not performance, it is presence. Not conquest, but surrender. Not proof, but truth. At the core of every man lies a softness, a tenderness, a sensitivity the world told him to bury. Jung called this the feminine within, not in gender, but in energy, the receptive, the intuitive, the emotional. It is through real intimacy that this part awakens. When a man touches a woman with presence, he also touches himself, the self without masks, the self without titles, the self that is whole. But here's where many men get trapped. Deep down, they still believe they are not enough. And so they seek women who confirm it. They chase those who withhold affection, who demand performance, who keep them locked in the cycle of proving. It becomes an addiction, an emotional loop. He thinks he's chasing her, but in truth, he's chasing the validation he never received as a child. This is the soul trap, seeking healing where you were once wounded, hoping sex will complete you, when in reality, it only mirrors back your brokenness. Because every time you enter her body, you are really trying to enter your own heart. And the more you search for yourself in someone else, the more of yourself you lose. The modern world glorifies conquest. It tells men to conquer women but never teaches them how to sit with a woman. How to be safe in her gaze without collapsing into shame. How to let themselves be seen, not just admired. That is where true intimacy lives. Not in dominance, but in presence. There comes a point in every man's journey where the casual loses its thrill. Where the chase grows exhausting. Where surface-level pleasure feels hollow. And in that exhaustion, deeper questions rise. What am I really looking for? Why do I feel emptier after the act than before? Why does being next to her sometimes make me feel lonelier than being alone? That is when the illusion cracks. That is when sex becomes a mirror. In her distance, he sees the space he has kept from himself. And in the stillness of night, lying awake after she has fallen asleep, he hears it, the voice, fragile, but honest, whispering, "This isn't where you belong." Not because she is wrong, not because he is bad, but because the connection was never sacred. It was a transaction, a distraction from the real work, the work of returning home to himself. And most men are terrified of that return. Because returning home means feeling. And feeling has always been dangerous. So men armor up. They become providers, protectors, performers. They hide wounds behind ambition. They cover insecurity with charm. They replace intimacy with intensity. But nothing replaces what the soul truly needs: honesty. Raw, terrifying honesty. The honesty to admit, I am lonely. I am scared. I have mistaken sex for love. And when that honesty finally breaks through, illusions crumble. The belief that conquest brings completion shatters. The lie that worth is measured by how many women desire you dissolves. And in its place rises truth. that what you really want is peace. And peace doesn't come from giving more of yourself to what drains you. It comes from saying no, from withdrawing your energy from what empties you, from learning how to be alone without feeling lonely. There comes a moment when every man must choose: keep pretending, or begin healing, keep chasing, or stop and face the mirror. And when he does, he meets every version of himself: the boy who survived without affection, the teenager who believed love had to be earned, the man who wore success like armor. And when he meets them, he doesn't shame them, he holds them, he forgives them. This is what intimacy teaches. When you're ready to learn that love is not something you find, it's something you return to within. That sex is not something you use, it's something you honor. That pleasure is not performance, it is prayer. The body is not a battlefield, it is a temple. And temples must be entered with reverence. Because when you lie with someone, you don't just enter their body, you invite them into your field, your spirit. And if you are unaware of your own energy, you absorb theirs, their grief, their pain, their confusion. You carry it and call it love. But it is not love. It is codependency wrapped in chemistry. Two souls trying to heal each other with bodies while their spirits cry for something deeper. And the truth is this: you cannot make someone your home if you have never felt at home in yourself. So pause, breathe, step back, let yourself sit with the emptiness, not to escape it, but to listen, because emptiness always has a voice. And that voice does not say, find someone. It says, find yourself. Your power is not measured by how many women you can attract. Your power is measured by how honestly you can hold your pain, how bravely you can choose alignment over attention, how deeply you can see yourself when no one else is watching. The most dangerous man in the world is not the strongest, not the richest, not the most desired. It is the man who has made peace with his past, the man who no longer chases love to escape wounds, the man who no longer confuses chaos for chemistry. That man is not hard to seduce because he is cold. He is hard to seduce because he is conscious. He doesn't need you to complete him. He chooses you because he is already whole. And in that wholeness, sex becomes sacred again. Not conquest, not distraction, but union, remembering, coming home. You were never meant to bleed yourself dry trying to be enough for someone else. You were never meant to lose yourself in bodies that do not see your soul. You were meant to return to yourself, and from that place, offer something real, not desperation, not fear, but essence, peace, clarity. That is the man the world is waiting for. That is the man she has never met. That is the man you were born to become. And if this message spoke to you, don't just scroll away. Reflect on it, share it, let it sink into your bones. And if you want to keep exploring these truths with me, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, leave your thoughts in the comments, and share it with someone who needs to hear this today. Because transformation begins with awareness. And awareness begins, right here, right now, with you.